1967 with the Halifax company, and he says the money pit is over here. And Captain Welling, who's the engineer, is looking at a drawing, and keep in mind, he says money pit's over here. Okay? And William Chappell, who's going to run the drill rig, who was MR's father, said, well, I think it's over here. And some of the investors and workers all had different ideas. All they're seeing are depressions in the ground, and they're seeing, piles of debris that's been piled up, or maybe they see an open shaft. Nobody knew. There's no descriptions on anything. Right? That's the problem, and that's the problem today. And then when you compound that by the fact of what Robert Dunfield did here, right? So when we look at a survey, and I think the earliest survey we have is from 1916. It's called the Lozier Survey. We have them from 34, 37. We have drawings and descriptions going right back from 1890s straight through. And we're like, okay, well there should be, if that's shaft 2, that should be shaft 3. But every drawing is different. So, the survey will say, well, there should be a survey monument here, or there's a big oak tree that was there, or there was a shaft that's there, and there's nothing here. It's all been destroyed. So that's another problem that we face constantly, is trying to orient ourselves. The only knowns that we have in the money pit, the old ones, I should say, is we know where the chapel shaft was, we know where the heavy shaft was, and we know what we believe to be in here is shaft 12 from 1893. That's between 90 and 110, we're starting to just get splinters, and at 110 we go into the in situ material. So it can't be the money pit. It cannot be the money pit. It's just another shaft. A big disappointment. So what they decide to do a lot of times here is go down to bedrock, right? So we took the drill, and it's using a 6-inch drill, right? Drill hole. And at 171 breaks into a cavity 21 feet high, because you can actually see the drill bar drop on TV. Jordan says he's got no pressure on the bar. It's just the weight of the bar, and it drops 21 feet and hits bedrock at 192, right? So then we put a camera down in this thing, right? And David's looking at the monitor, and David says, there's a shiny gold thing. And it's been forever known as the shiny gold thing. You may not think that anywhere else in the world, but here, that's a tunnel, right? So below 165, what comes up in the spoils are 4 types of metal, some spruce, some oak, and a chunk of what they believe to be cement. So they send the metal to Stelco in Hamilton, and 3 pieces come back as low carbon steel pre-1700. Continue on down, still looking for this pocket of water, and at 181 they hit bedrock, anhydrite. And they keep drilling down, and at 220 breaks out into a cavity 15 feet high at the bottom, which is at 235. So they bring in a churn drill, right? They're turning this thing 27 inches in diameter, right? And then pushing casing down. Again, hitting the 2 voids, hitting the bedrock at 181, and at around 185, they stop the casing. Huge mistake. Big mistake. Monumental, catastrophic mistake they made. So from 185 to 220, there's no casing. It's just raw anhydrite. So they bring CBC television in, and they put a camera down in this thing, in the cavity. And it appears to show 2 chests, what could be a wooden post supporting the roof, some working tools leaning up against the wall, and quite possibly, a headless body laying belly down in the silt with his elbow, and then cocked back like this. Dan spoke to a pathologist in Halifax. David Tobias did the same thing in Montreal where he lived. And before the introduction of water, lack of oxygen, and the fact that it was in anhydrite, it's possible for a body to become preserved, according to them. So they brought in divers. They had Atlantic divers from Brooklyn, Nova Scotia here. They did a series of dives in 10X. The late Commander Sager, in fact, he just passed away this past winter. He, ex-Royal Navy, ex-Royal Canadian Navy. He made a dive in 10X. Dan Blankenship made 11 dives in 10X. 7 test dives, 4 dives to the bottom. Dan Blankenship was not a professional diver. He was a recreational diver. To give you an example of his bravado, and this man had more guts than 5 men put together. I have no qualms about saying that. At one point, they had a problem with the air hose. Now they're using air from the surface, not a trimix, right? So they're using air, and at some point they had a problem with the air hose. So instead of going to a proper dive shop, Halifax or wherever, or ordering it, and getting the proper air hose, they send somebody to Chester, the hardware store, to buy garden hose. I'm not kidding you. Part of his air hose was garden hose. He had a 3-minute tank strapped to his leg. That was his emergency air. That's it. To give you another idea of his bravado, the dive suit that you see in the Interpretive Center with the Kirby Morgan hood on the top, he flew to Boston to buy that. Had like a 20-25-minute lesson on how to use it, probably with a little instruction booklet. Goes back to Logan Airport, gets on a plane, flies to Halifax. The next day he's diving in 10X. That's Dan Blankenship. But the generator would run their pump. Nothing frivolous like putting lights in there. No, they had oil lamps. And they lived like that for 6 years. 6 years. Robert said to his wife Mildred, I'm going to check the shore pit, then we're going to go to Chester, get some groceries, pay some bills, and that's our day. So he came down here, and if you come back from that little excavator there, right to the beach area, right, just in front of that second pylon over there, is roughly where the tragedy pit was. Now the Restalls had dug a series of these all along Smith's Cove, looking for the converging point of the 5 box drains / inlets which feed the flood tunnel, which is 520 feet long. Right? Took them 2.5 weeks to build this thing. It was 10 by 30, 27 feet deep, had 4 feet of water in the bottom of it, and they had a pump running, keeping the water down. Right? So Robert was observed, either stepping onto the ladder or leaning in, and he fell in. Now, there was a Boy Scout troop camping on the island at that time. There was a metal detecting group from Andover, Massachusetts, from Phillips Academy, a little farther over to the west, led by Richard Barton and Peter Beamish. And there was a tour group, much like yourselves, starting to walk down to Heddon's Wharf, again put in 1936, right, waiting for the tour boat to come from Chester to pick this group up and drop off another one. Right? It was a regular thing coming from Chester. Well, the people are starting to walk down to Smith's Cove. And it wasn't a straight run. It was kind of, you had to walk through the woods to get down there. Right? So there was commotion, panic. They didn't know, did Robert have a heart attack? Did he fall and hit his head? What happened? Bobby Restall, again, 24, younger, fitter, was over here. That's a wash plant over there. Over in that area with a bunch of young guys, 16, 17, 18 years old. Okay? And they were clearing some brush and burning it, and heard the commotion. He rushes over. He sees his father down there. So without hesitation, right, he starts to get down. He gets almost to the bottom when he collapses. And then there's just a succession. Bang, 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 bang. No thought of personal safety, just get the guy that went down before you. Now up until this time, all the shafts, all the boreholes, all the tunnels, no hint of gas at all. What we have here is a perfect storm. People said there was a rotten egg smell coming out of the pit. That could be hydrogen sulfide. The problem with hydrogen sulfide in a confined space, it will kill you. There's no question about that. Because first it's going to eat everything in here, and by that time you're dead anyway. We know methane is produced on Oak Island. You put a stick in the swamp, you see the bubbles come up. Other people said there was a green mist that kept swirling at the bottom of this thing. That could be chlorine. You have carbon monoxide coming off the pump because what was occurring that day was an atmospheric condition called inversion. Right? That's where if you're burning something, you got a motor running, smoke doesn't rise, stays very close to the surface. Go on YouTube, type in inversion, you'll see videos of it. That was occurring that day. Again, a perfect storm, the result of which 4 individuals lose their life. So there's 6 people at the bottom of this thing, 6 guys. Okay? Luckily on board that boat, just passing the south side of Frog. That's Frog Island right there. Right? It's owned by the Potter family from Dexter Construction. They own that. So it's just passing the south side of Frog and coming over to the wharf. Luckily on board was Captain Ed White. He was a firefighter from upstate New York. Now I don't know if any of you are firefighters, paramedics, or police officers, maybe somebody in the military. In times of crisis, they react. They go into automatic mode. We're all running around not knowing what to do. They react. And that's exactly what Captain Ed White did against the protests of his wife. He organized a rescue. Right? Somebody ran up to the money pit area. They got a rope. They tied it around Captain Ed White. And then he wet a rag. Now, I'm not going to be too gross about it, but there's a certain procedure you have to do. But by doing so, that will temporarily block the fumes. So he took this rag, he tied it around his face, because there's no rescue equipment right here, nothing. And he goes down, he gets 2 guys out. He gets Leonard Kaiser and Andrew DeMont out. Leonard Kaiser has since passed away. I see Andrew DeMont quite often. in Chester, Mahone Bay. He lives locally here. He was a 17-year-old kid when this happened. 17 years old. And he has lived with that all his life. It has affected him all his life. It's called survivor's remorse. Right? He survived, they didn't. He tried to rescue them, he failed. When you see episode 3 of season 1, that is the first time in 48 years that Andrew could set foot in Ocala. He just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it.